everyone. We are live.
This is 2OF Entertainment.
And here he is. Who knew?
Yeah, good. Great day today.
We're back.
Yeah, nothing but sunshine and happiness.
Sunshine and something. So between and Texas has got a hurricane going on, not here, but Houston, and it's working its way up north now. So that'll be fun.
Welcome.
welcome to the planet Earth.
It usually runs up the East Coast, doesn't come through central Canada much. We get something. We had a bit of weather, but it's still summertime. It's better than shoveling snow. So
very true. Very true.
You enjoy every day, even if it's hot. Beautiful. Yeah. Anyway, we got a great artist today. We got it. I say this all the time. We have a lot of really good artists, and we do. I mean, we got Jeff Dillon's going to join us today, and he's got a really different perspective of landscape painting. Right? They're fresh.
It's vibrant. It's very vibrant. When I look at it, it just pops. I like it.
It does pop. And we're going to talk to him about his processes and how his vision and how he sees, I guess I'll call it Canada. I mean, he's got it's just a unique vision, and it's somewhere, we'll talk to him about it. Anyway, here he is.
You've lost for words today, huh?
Not lost for words. I mean, when you look at something that's kind of unique. I mean, I've seen other things similar to it, but he's got a consistent, like you said, there's a energy in it, and in a different way.
It pops. You look at it, and you're just like, wow, yeah.
Energized. I mean, I think it's something that people can learn from it, but also people can appreciate what he's got to say, and that's what artists usually do. We have stuff to say, so we can do that. Yeah. Let's bring him on.
Or should we just talk about him and not bring him in?
Talk about him behind his back. Right?
And there he is. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Oh, well, thanks.
Welcome. Yeah. Great. Well,
I'm gonna let you two gentlemen have at it. I'm gonna disappear till the end of the show. Enjoy, have a great show, and we'll see you at the end.
Okay.
Oh, good morning, Jeff. How you doing?
Good morning. Good. Very good.
Yeah, good. No, I just, I've seen your work for a while, and you've been a member of Artists in Canada for a while as well, and we appreciate that. And I just really like to show your work to a lot of other people and let them see, we all have different ways of seeing a landscape and how we envision what is Canada, and I really feel what you're painting is Canada. I mean, though you could be painting anywhere in the world and you have that style that would look that way, but I've been really looking at this again, especially this last day or two before our interview, and it's iconic. You're looking for things that are iconic. It's rare and it's hard to do. And when you're intuitive about it, you got to just go with it and do it. I mean, these things look great. I think you do posters and prints, and I guess we'll call it different things. So a lot of people can really have a piece of your work, and yes, you have the originals, but you also have other things people can sort of take away and really enjoy, I guess, your vision of Canada. Am I correct in that a little bit?
No, that's exactly it. I started painting really anything. I painted some pieces in Europe on trips that I went to, but I really like the vast landscapes in Canada, and they offer quite a lot of different areas between the mountains, and recently I've been doing more of the East Coast or just coastal scenes, but between our animal life and the wildlife and the landscapes, there's more than enough inspiration to paint just in our own country. So I do focus more and more, and have for probably a decade now, on Canada in itself.
Yeah, I'm actually going to get Stephen to start our first image up. We'll just there we go. I think it started something with a little bit more drama to it. So we'll I think a lot of us are so much affected by environmental aspects of what's happening in Canada, the change of our weather system, and can you tell us? I'll go to the next image here in a minute, but which is the same one as this one, but the full image.
Mhm.
And I just felt that this one is really impactful because, and there it is there. Right across Canada, we're all dealing with environmental issues and the warming factor and the fires that we're having to deal with. Can you tell us a little bit about this inspiration, where this came from for this picture of the fire?
Yeah, honestly, this was painted before forest fires started to become more of a headline. I was intrigued by doing more than just a campfire or something. I wanted something, again, part of the landscapes, and forest fires are a natural aspect of forests. They do happen naturally. And I was more or less trying to get the intensity of the light, which is a lot of what I try to play with in my work. And forest fires were intriguing because at night, it's more scary, but it's also, you're just seeing the fire, the glow and the darkness and all the embers. And this was actually meant to be kind of a rebirth, like the forest is being torched, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the forest is dead. There is a rebirth that happens after forest fires in a natural state. Being the way the weather is recently, and some of the things that are hitting in the headlines, doesn't necessarily mean that's the natural state of forest, but so some of these things are getting more out of control with the heat. So I had used these pieces when Australia was fighting their forest fires, and then Canada the next year, to more awareness. It was a neat way. You don't normally see forest fires, especially at night, being depicted in paintings. And so I think art is just another way of showing culture. But this was another subject matter I was just attempting. I've tried different ones that are a bit more abstract. I tried this one. I haven't gone back to it, but I do find it an intriguing subject to paint.
Yeah. So are you painting acrylic on canvas type of paintings, or are they?
Yeah, they're all acrylic. So it's a heavy body by Golden.
Right.
I started with fluid acrylic, which I still have lots of, but the last probably 3 years, I mixed them for a bit, and then I switched right over to the heavy body, because it, especially on the lighter colors like white and yellow, it just goes on better. You just don't have to do like 6 layers to get that kind of brightness. So I find it a little bit more useful, but yeah.
The Golden is a great paint, and it's got a lot of light fastness to it, so you're not going to get a lot of fugitive colors that are going to fade out on you a little bit and things. But yeah, just painting the intensity of something, though. You have a kind of a line structure that we'll go through some of your other works for a minute here, but they almost feel like this aggressive line drawings that are filled with color. I mean, they're so you spend a fair amount of time like doing your line work, like you have sketchbook thing going on, or do you
I
draw directly onto your canvas?
Yeah, usually it's directly kind of figured out on canvas. Years ago, I drew a lot more than I painted, and they tend to be more abstract if you just let the mind go. I really like the shapes, and just kind of breaking down. I guess when I tried to learn how to draw and stuff, I did take a few classes, but I don't really have formal like higher education in art. But often it was break down the subject matter into shapes and colors, and you can define things. You see often beginning artists where they grid work, and even advanced artists still do that. They grid work. But I just tend to look at the shapes in the picture. You can break things down, and I do that a lot with paint. I find it a lot easier to just paint the colors and then continue to fragment the image further and further and further as I need to. And I've skipped around a lot where maybe the whole entire painting looks a little bit more stained glass like, a lot of people have said. And then I've also tried to back out of the black line a little bit more into certain areas where I just allow the color to be the color. So this is a good example where if I threw the black line over the fire, it would change the look or change the feel. So the subject matters, which is the trees, have that deep, dark object kind of feel, and fire was left almost to be like air in itself. So I don't really have a straight method of exactly when I apply it and when I don't. I just kind of, each piece has its own character, and it's what I struggle and fight through as I'm painting it.
Yeah. Well, it looks very intuitive. I mean, you've got a great design sense. So I think, my old art instructors, he says, well, where's that thing? He says, well, the idea is still in my head. It's just it still has to come out. And it's like, and they're wanting to see something tangible on your page. And you're going, no, it's coming, but it takes a while, back and forth, back and forth. I love that, the layering of color on a black, because I typically, these type of paintings, I'm not attracted to, because they're kind of silhouette-y a little bit. But when you lay color in on top of a dark field, like your trees and things, it brings them back into, they're still dark and kind of silhouetted, but they're still part of the image that you're painting. Like, they're not just like you've cut them out of black paper and stuck them on top of the page. So and they're kind of intertwined. And then we'll look at something a little cooler here rather than not so hot. Okay. Yeah. So do you travel a little bit, or do you work from photos, or where's your inspiration come from?
Oh, well, there's so much. We're in the world of photos and inspiration. So billions of people have cameras out there to provide you a million different angles from any location on Earth. So there's lots of inspiration you can draw from to get these. Just to go back on the black line and some of the reason why I did that, it was actually one of Lawren Harris's paintings that I saw in particular at the AGO, where he has like this really dark kind of cloudy scene, and the lights coming down from the clouds onto islands in the water. And I looked up close, and just how, back then, I think the paint today is a little bit better than it was then, but how many layers of white paint he was trying to put on right against this extremely dark blue to create almost black, but not quite. And how stark that is. No matter where I kept looking at the painting, it was that exact point of where black meets white, where almost black meets white, that was drawing me in the painting, and thinking like, I wonder if I could do that, over and over and over again, where the eye just keeps going to these centers of bright light popping out of dark areas. But I also like the fluid nature, and lots of people like Van Gogh's work, but I like the way that he shows and depicts the skies and the movement and all of that kind of stuff. And there's various other artists that I like that show almost this freeze frame life in motion, but stopped. And so that's kind of what I like doing, is showing this general energy or movement throughout the piece. And it's very therapeutic to actually do the black line. It's not that's where it started, was just putting the brush on canvas and just seeing where it goes, as if you were just sketching in some ways.
Right. Well, I find like in your works coming up, they felt like they're almost like map making. You see those aerial drawings of showing you the different heights of land and different, like if you look at topographical type of a work, right, you would draw out where the lake is and how the land goes down, say from 1,500 feet down to sea level. So they have those kinds of feelings. We'll look at some of those pieces as well, but they also define the landscape. They decide whether it's rock, or these ones are, really these undulating lines that give you a really nice feeling of trees, but they're not, right? They're trees, but they're the branches from a pine tree or a spruce tree that are there. But if anybody's walked in that Muskeg area, you can almost feel, and this is in a more controlled manner, but you can feel that quagmire that goes on when you walk through a bush. And I kind of like that. So is this in Banff or in the Rockies?
Yeah, it would be a Rockies scene.
Based on that. So how big is this painting roughly?
If I remember right, that was a larger one, like 30 by 60 or so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly that one. But yeah, I have my website.
So you show in a couple of galleries across the country?
I have two right now that I'm with. I'm with Koyman Galleries in Ottawa and Grandberg Gallery in Alberta.
Yeah.
Those are the two, and then I sell art through my own website. So between those three options, and I'm not an extremely fast painter because I like the detail and I get hung up in the detail. But between those three avenues, I usually have about 20 paintings always available, and I just continue to sell. So I can't really open up any more galleries.
Well, there's no benefit to storing them. You know,
No.
Yeah, I sort of think it would be great if you could somewhere put a public exhibition together. It'd be great to have a public showing somewhere of your work, other than say a commercial gallery situation, so people could see a body of your work.
Yeah.
You know, so do you paint it all in like with an environmental aspect to it, like a statement of some kind that I guess your own personal mission statement a little bit about what you do, or
Not really. No. There's not really a statement, I guess. It's more
just the beauty of the land? Just the beauty of the land is what you basically.
yeah, it's the challenge of each subject matter, really.
Yeah.
Whether I can, kind of catch that moment. So I really like playing with light. So if there's really bright areas with really dark areas, trying to show that light. Some of the most recent paintings I did, there's one where it's 273 and it's a winter scene, and I have the sun in the background and it's shining through the trees, and it's like that kind of like, as I explained before when I saw it in Lawren Harris's work, is like just those real stark differences. And some of them are more subtle and some of them are a bit brighter. I did a bunch of winter scenes this winter where the moon was out and it was nighttime. And personally, I like walking around at night. I like being out at night. I like that stark difference where the subject matter is almost a bit hidden and you're just really seeing the light bounce off things. So yeah, here's another good example of this piece I did, I think like 5 years ago.
And they're very summery, moody paintings. I love them. They have that nice, they're lush. They still feel lush and you feel you want to be there. I think that's kind of the magic when an artist can create environments where people want to be a part of that, to engage in that, to say, I want that to be around me for longer than just in the gallery and they purchase your work. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of assume you're not really painting for markets. You paint for yourself. That's initially what you do, correct? You're paint.
Yeah.
And I find that when you do that, then that's when the magic happens. Because if you satisfy yourself as a painter, typically other people can see that. You don't have to sell it to people. They understand the value and what they're getting back. They say, my God, look at not only the hours in the work, but like you said, there's that light and vibrance, and maybe it sends them back to another time when they were that young kid walking around with a fishing rod, right? And this brings me back. I remember in Ontario, I lived down around London, and there'd be days I went by myself and went fishing, in some of the creeks. And this kind of reminds me of that. There's just, beautiful days, right? You can, but in your own technique and style. This is what I like about it. You say that you have the follower, you like the work of Lawren Harris, and more so than the other group of seven, or is he one that you resonate?
His was just particularly that one moment when I saw that.
One moment. Yeah, I love the work of AJ Casson, and I've always liked his work, and his sense of light was amazing as well. And but I've had this conversation with other people. They're painting, I guess, sort of group of seven imagery. You're not so much. You're painting, you're not always in the north country, but doing it in your own style. It's really difficult for a lot of people to not, when you start painting with a wide palette of color. It's really difficult, especially in the fall, and you're up in Algonquin. you go, oh my goodness, what am I going to paint? He said, well, it's really hard to find your own way of painting that vision without it saying, oh, it looks like a G7, right? And, you know, you kind of move on. But I think this is a beautiful piece. I just, you know, if somebody was to tell me, oh, I'm going to paint and there's going to be these undulating squiggles of color over the page and it's going to represent a landscape, and I'm trying to get it to tick into my head as to how could I envision what it was like. And then when you see it, you go, oh yeah, wow, yeah, that works. It works, right? And but initially, if you're just to verbally tell somebody, they say, oh, I don't know, maybe it will work, maybe it won't work. But it seems you've got it nailed down pretty nicely. Yeah. So this
Yeah.
one of your vertical ones. A lot of the other ones mostly landscape based, right? You'll see
Yeah,
today.
I switch back and forth between kind of vertical, square, horizontal. I just like the motion, like the last one where sometimes the water doesn't match the scene. Like it's not a reflection. It's not realistic. So many people ask me like, is this, you know, what style is this? And I don't really have an answer. It's abstract, but not to the form where you lose the reality of what you're seeing. But it's not, you can see in the reflection of the water, it's not an exact replication of what's above it. It's just meant to simulate that kind of reflection, but it's changing. It's changing as your eye moves around the picture. You can't really, you see that it's a mirror. It makes sense to your brain, but it's not probably exact reality.
Yeah, and I don't think you need to replicate what is on the land back and flip it and place it in the water so they look like a mirror where you could split the page and you would know what end is up.
Mm-hmm.
I think this works really well when you work from that dark right-hand corner back into the light. It forces your eye in behind that tree.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so there's magic things happening here that you automatically accept. If everything was busy, it's too there's too much of a surface front, like it's all up too much. There's no depth to the piece of work. So working with line work, you really have got it. You know, you have to have those analogous colors to the greens laying back to bring that light in. And you know, because once you take the light away, you got to give it back. You know, you got to there's a give and take in a piece of work. And
even that branch that's really black and that crosses behind the other tree, that actually in the original painting has details all the way through that entire branch. But it looks really dark, but there is so much of this the detail that is hard to see.
Yeah, it's hard to show here on the screen as well. All the details that are on here. I mean, you look at the thumbnails and all the lines disappear. They're just this landscape. You think, oh, until you click on it, and it pops up, and it's they're beautiful pieces of work. And we'll go back to this one here. I love this cloud play and just happening here. And I feel a lot of our Indigenous artists, there's spiritual aspect to clouds and sky, and I feel there's a spirituality to some of your work here, especially in this one here.
There's a lot of people that had mentioned, I guess, the Canada, because of that aspect. It's my background is also Irish and Scottish, and so I always drew from the Celtic. I always liked the schools from the Celtic sides, and so a lot of those kind of swirls and stuff were stuff that I liked from the Celtic drawings, Celtic scenes, and so it was bringing a bit of that, in truth, from what I liked in the UK and the aspects of some of kind of my background into Canada and making those twists and those turns and so forth. So,
right.
Yeah.
It's nice when you can bring a bit of your heritage back into what you're doing. Because not most of us, I guess, I don't know, other artists probably may do some of that. I know our Indigenous artists do, but other artists just, they paint maybe they don't, you know, maybe some of our Ukrainian artists that would paint in a certain manner, part of their heritage. But and I never thought about it. I mean, I'm a Scottish background as well, but I just, you know, the Celtic aspect, bringing that into a style, but it makes sense with, I guess, the style of painting that you work in. You're always looking for something that can add to your work, that doesn't take away, but actually, because you have to have a little change in your life too. You can't just paint every painting the same, right?
No. Well, and
Yeah.
each of them are a little bit different. So, and again, I think if you just naturally just put something to paper, canvas, whatever, and you just draw without purpose, I think most people will draw swirls and it will be this abstract feeling. It's just like, draw music, it's just this thing you're drawing the shapes. And then obviously if you can pair that kind of creativity and just mindless drawing or mindless painting with an actual subject matter, I think you do get to something like this, which is, you can see through time that many cultures have painted or drawn or carved in these kind of swooping lines and
Yeah.
shapes.
Yeah. No, it feels very lyrical. There's a musical aspect. I can feel music in me a little bit when I see some of these pieces. And maybe, like you said, there's that Celtic tune that goes through your head a little bit when you look at some of the work, and, or whatever, whatever music you like to listen to. I just feel there's some of this. Yeah. I don't know if anybody's been in the North Country. They've seen these, shards of rock that come out of the lakes, and especially in the Shield Country, and you start painting those, and you're really trying to define the ruggedness of a rock. It can be challenging at the best of times, and I think you've upped the ante just a little bit. The challenges of that topography of that rock, right? And
Mhm.
yeah, there is a raw energy. I mean, you do feel that linear energy that lays on that rock, and it's just a different way of depicting it, right? And some people can do it just with color and block it in.
Yeah.
But this one has a very defined. You talked about this drawing. I said, and I sort of remember years as a kid, my edge of my history book was full of drawings, doodles, I guess I'll almost call them. And you're right.
Mhm.
When you have a mindset just to sit there and let your mind wander a bit, uh, you tend to draw lines and draw things and fill them in and shade this and do that. So did some of that maybe come from that when you're in your early years? How long have you been sort of drawing like this, from the beginning? Like,
Yeah, drawing like this, I can look back in high school art projects and see very similar, maybe not as detailed, but definitely like formations of things that would be, and also trying to paint real, but trying to paint realistically was more of a challenge, eh, because that's what you're trying to see and paint what you're saying. But actually, as I got older, I liked almost the artistic of not making it real, to try to make something representative of what you see rather than making it that actual thing. And then, as it's progressed, this background, funny enough, the sky, I did this 3 times on the same canvas. And there's a challenge with paint because if you do something wrong, you can see the shadow of what was there before. So when you're working things out, you have to be careful that you don't make it too thick because you'll see it over top of the other work. But I liked this one because the tree on the far right is swooping almost with the clouds. So it ties in with the background, where it feels like the wind has actually captured the tree. So then that ties the background with the foreground. And then the rocks that are kind of on that 45-degree angle almost points your eye right back at the back of the painting to start all over again. So you kind of keep flowing around the movement of this. You don't know which way the water's going. You kind of feel the wind, but the rock's pointing the other direction. So it's this kind of idea. If you can, it's having a little bit of an idea of what you want to accomplish in a painting. And I don't know how it will necessarily look at the end,
yeah,
but I do try to figure out how I want the general setup and feel of the painting to be.
yeah. No, it's got that zigzag energy into, you're right. It points up 45, and I never thought about it as much, but well designed. And I do like that simplicity of that sky in the background. It really makes that little island pop,
Yeah.
off the page. And like I said, I think these are kind of iconic images of the North Country in your own way of doing it. And I think more of us, as we paint those images, are helping define who we are and what we are in an individual way, but other people appreciating who maybe have never been there, or maybe have only been there occasionally, can say, "Oh, that's us." I mean, we're not 500 years old when it comes to our painting history in Canada. So we're trying to find our own vision, and we've had a few start us up 100 years ago and get us going, but a lot of us came from Europe and painted in a European style.
Mhm.
And that was our early years. And then there was some that the breakaway groups that sort of came through and redefining who we are as a nation, I guess, as a country. I'm speaking this way more nationally than trying to find a vision and trying to find a way of saying Canada, a way of saying here world, here's what we are like. And so when
Mhm.
our viewers from outside of Canada, they look at what Canada is like, we are the rugged North in certain sections. And um, I guess this is your vision of it. And I love seeing a fresh vision of similar spaces. Yeah, there
Mhm.
we go. Yet we can put you right here on the lance, bring you back down to earth here instead of going back up north.
Yep.
Um, yeah,
So
this is
this I started my very first sunflower. Well, it wasn't my first, but I did sunflower for Ukraine when that first happened, and worked with the UNHCR and donated the proceeds 100% to that cause,
yeah,
which was quite successful. I think it was around 19,000 that we donated to that, and and then there was other paintings that came after that that people wanted
yeah,
for me to create, and this was a commission that I did, and it was a really big. It was 40 by 60, and I think this was me starting off thinking, I'm going to do a field. Like I did fields before, but I'm really going to do it from a higher perspective, looking out into quite the distance. And I think I got carried away. So I remember being on the far left and trying to paint these. It's hard to show you the detail of this, but it's like when you're like a third through this, and then you're going, this is going to be months by the time I get to the other side. But I wasn't. But I did have to devote some serious time to actually completing the detail of this painting, because especially when you've already done, tend to work from the furthest distance forward. So the sky was already done, the midground was already done. It's like, that looks fantastic. Am I going to screw it up with the foreground? And then when you start the foreground, you're like, okay, now I have to commit. And I generally work from left to right when I'm painting this stuff, because I don't want to drag my hand over it. So that's what I was doing. I was kind of mocking this up, and it's layers that I'm working on. And the black work is often the last thing that I do, not the first thing I do.
a good thing it's not an oil paint. It'd be drying, taking dry. You'd never get finished.
Yeah, and that's what I like about acrylic. And that's definitely what I like about heavy body acrylic, is it has all the old feel of the oil painting,
Right.
but it dries quicker, so it doesn't tend to get as mucky, and you can keep going, especially if you like painting in layers. Then you have this ability to keep painting over top of it fairly quick. So if I work in from left to right, by the time I get to the other side, I can always start right back over within pretty quick time.
Yeah. No, this is very, very detailed, and trying to get that to diminish to the back. In other words, you're making the flowers smaller, 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 and they're more and more concentrated. The color changes, right? They're
Mhm.
not yellow anymore. Like you paint, like some people will paint canola, and it's not yellow. There's the greens that are in there that make it zing, right? And things
Uh-huh.
change, and as your eye can be fooled quite easily, actually, when you step back from something, you see the vibration, you don't see every line. When you get up close, you see it. It's a different experience when you're, especially with your work. It's a different experience when you look at it up close. I'd love to see one of your shows. I haven't been fortunate to be there, but I love seeing your work online. And
this detail would be, there is quite a lot of detail. Like even, we look at it just as the whole thing right now, but if you were up front, like you literally can see, midway through the painting, you're looking at little flowers. They still are. It's almost like that Where's Waldo thing. Like you really you can see every detail, and it's surprising. But I overall wanted the feel where the top right-hand side is more orange, but it makes you feel like the wind's undulating through the field. Does kind of give you that motion again. And the clouds are very much like, when you're spotting clouds and saying, I can see a rabbit, I can see a horse, I can see this. It's meant to be these kind of more defined shapes like they get in the summer where they're a little bit more puffy.
Right. Yeah. And when you mentioned Ukraine and the response to this piece, and that was an iconic image being used in that at that time, a couple of years ago, when all the riffraff happened, and still happening. And I can read lots of symbolism into a piece of this, or the magnitude of the amount of those flowers being individual people. So there's a lot of symbolism, and my heart goes out to a lot of those Ukrainian people. Resilience, and it's a lovely piece and testament to that. I've seen a number of them, but this one really pops.
Thank you.
Let's take you up north again. I like this one.
This is an interesting story. This was a commission from a woman in Ontario, where her father actually studied the Aurora Borealis, and he was in late stages of life, and I think he saw this before he had passed. But it's it was, so he was way up north, like North Pole north, and there is no trees. It's well above the tree line. And so when we were talking about this whole concept, she said their biggest fear was the polar bears. Somebody always had to be watching out for polar bears because they're going to come and attack these scientists that are studying the aurora and shooting things into the sky. So I said, I'm trying to find reference pictures of the North Pole. It's like, this is going to be a pretty just kind of quiet scene if it's just snow and then a polar bear and looking up at the sky. So I said, do you mind if I add some trees? It's going to add some dynamic. It's not going to be quite that far north. And so that was the idea of this, is to create this flat look. So you're kind of getting the horizon line very flat, the distance with the tree line. And then this trees, and then I was trying to figure out how to paint the brightness of the aurora. And so I could paint it, but it was more just what it was bouncing off of to really get that intensity. So since everything was snow, then the green had to be snow. And then, of course, the polar bear it was white, so it had to reflect it in the same manner. And the symbolism was really to have the polar bear look up at the northern lights, and more or less the polar bear being almost becoming the father that's, still looking up at that whole symbolism of kind of humans and identifying ourselves with animals, which many cultures around the world have done. So that was the idea behind this painting.
Yeah. No, so you are doing what I just asked you with your responses to things that are happening in our country and in our North country. And it's lovely to see these, inspiration again in a fresh way, in a different way. A lot of Canadians maybe have not even seen, a lot of people around the world maybe have never seen a northern light before. They're quite, and as you get farther north, you don't need a lot of city light around you. You need to get kind of out in the country to see this. You see in the late August in the sky, in the summer skies, but in the wintertime, there's also some dramatic color exchanges with all that ion bombardment, I guess is what they technically are. But I love that. There's I like that. And I like your addition of the trees. It gives you some nice, it there's some depth with that again. Like they bring the trees forward and the Aurora in behind it, right? It kind of breaks that up. I mean, it still would have worked the other way too, but I liked the feeling of I guess the landscape, not just snowbound, but just
Yeah.
yeah. So
the trees were really meant to create shape, because without the trees, you're just having you'll have the sky above and then the stuff below. But the trees help you point to like look up. It's just almost the height. So it helps you kind of, again, it's just that motion of looking at the distance in the far right, and then it kind of comes up and swoops up behind the tree, which makes it feel like it's much higher. So yeah, it's just trying to.
It's a very emotional piece as well.
Yeah, and you need the detail, I think, of the trees, because I wanted to create these big swooping lines, so it helps balance out the real fine detail versus the much larger swoops of the sky.
No, it's I really like that piece. We get in some different terrain happening here a little bit. So is this more BC coast, or is this?
Yep, yeah. This is Jasper. This is the Spirit Island from a different angle. And this one was another painting that I had donated for the UNHCR, raised money for that. And that was for them to help. This wasn't specific cause. This was just their general, the painting that they use as for their causes that they're going out to help various people around the world.
Right.
We did this, and they left it up to me, so I didn't actually know which piece, and it was kind of, it's always a little stressful when someone says, make us a beautiful piece, and then you're like, oh, and then you got to put it up for auction and hope somebody really, it kind of creates that feeling so that it does allow somebody to want it and donate this money. So I actually created 3 paintings and more or less showed them 3, and this is the one they picked.
Oh yeah, well that's sort of the way to go if you can have the time to do those things. I'm not commissions have been a brutal thing. You go down a different road sometimes and you end up, it just doesn't work out. So here's 3, choose one.
Yeah.
It's probably best. Of the piece, I really love the water in this one. I mean, reflections are a challenge for a lot of people. You don't have to mirror the island, and it's just beautiful symbols and shapes, and gives you a nice rhythm of water rather than just being this flat piece of glass. You're having fun every day in your work. That's what I like to see. It looks like you're having fun. It's not a lot of, I know there's a lot of work, like literally, but it just has that elegance of fun. You just, and good sharp color variants as well. You get that vibrant color. Even greens are really hard for people to deal with. I think a lot of people, even some of the group of 7 we were talking about, the green paintings just don't sell. And obviously they're wrong, right? You must be wrong, because you use a fair amount of green, I guess, and different types of greens. But
well, I think green is the most amount of color we can see with the human eye. So we see green shades the most. And Golden has made quite a lot of different shades of green paint. So and then that's not even let alone blending it. But yeah, so I think the mixture of green and teal and how much you could really do. Blue is also another one where you can just do endless shades of blue and it still makes sense.
Right.
So
it's vibrant, and you throw a snappy yellow in there for the sky, and it just has a different singing, and I'm just looking now, and you're talking about this dark cloud at the very top above the mountain. It's just, those things kind of keep your eye back down on the page. I mean, I'm about design a lot of times in what I do, and I like to see works that are thought out, not just wandering, right? It's just because it's really about, what are you trying to say as an artist, right? And you control, it's your page, you can do what you like with it, right? And don't let it control you to the point where it gets ruined, like it
Mhm.
strays from maybe where your initial idea came from, right? It doesn't mean don't let room for other ideas to come in, but sometimes you get you get wandering off in the wrong direction. But your works, yeah, a lot of your work feels a little bit like when you did a watercolor. It would be, you have to plan things out in
Mhm.
stage, so you know that you leave areas that are lighter, whiter, so you can get back in later to work on things. You can't just get lighter once you do a watercolor. And
Mhm.
your work feels like this. It feels like you have to leave areas to come back to once you get, say, you get your foreground filled in, and then you kind of figure out that color for that water. And I can see how you've done it. Yet it all pulls together. There's not areas where it stops and starts. So,
Mhm.
how long would you work on something like this piece of work? Like how many
It's
days?
it's about 80 hours,
Yeah.
on average, give or take. For most medium paintings, larger ones can get up to 120, smaller ones a little less. But I don't tend to do too many small ones. I like around the 20 by 20 up.
Yeah.
That's to be the range that I like painting in. But physically, it's also physically demanding. And even when, I mean, I painted for now, I think 11 or 12 years, almost every day. And, but when I went to full time 3 years ago, trying to treat it like a job, like you would, okay, I'm going to be a full time artist. I'm going to paint every single day or do 40 hours a week. You can't paint for 8 hours a day. Physically, it just, your joints start creaking and it's painful. so so you do have to try. So I try to paint every day, as best I can, but try to do 5 or 6 hours a day, at best, because any more than that, and it's mind over matter. You're just pushing your body to try
So
to.
do you paint at an easel standing up or
An easel, standing up or sitting down. I have like a drafting chair.
right?
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I have a large easel, and I prefer it to be vertical so that you don't drip on it um, yeah. So I like painting, and I tend to paint from the top down because it's usually sky or something like that.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, no, you can see that. Sorry about all the big white space on the bottom. I should have blocked that out, but this
I don't
one,
know where it's hard with. That's also what I deal with social media,
format.
is trying to show paintings that are wider than the format that they allow you.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I love this one. It's got these clouds are just roaring over top of the mountain, and they just that feeling. There's a different energy in every one of your pieces. Are just there's different energies that are happening, and if anybody's been to the mountains, you can feel this golden hour that
mhm,
happens. So I felt like a lot of your paintings have that golden hour, the early morning, late evening, where the shadows are a little deeper and they're saturated, the colors are saturated a little bit more rather than the heat of the day,
mhm.
uh, sun straight above your head. So I think that typically is what people like to remember. They like to remember those kind of moments, but you paint those moments. Just yeah, it's really lovely. Yeah.
Yeah, this
So
was the
this again,
challenge.
this is about 60 wide. This one is this
Yeah, 60 by 30. This one's in, currently, the original is in Coiman Galleries in Ottawa. So if you're in the Ottawa area, then you can see the original.
yeah. Remember,
Um,
we have followers that are definitely in Ottawa. They can pop in and see your work.
yeah. And this one I wanted to figure out how to paint that mist. Again, I always convert everything to shape. So I don't, there's no like blending or just kind of making the mist misty. It's always trying to do a shape. The last painting I did, the Moonlight Tide, it was the whole thing. The whole entire sky is this squiggly lines of the fog moving upwards. Um, so it's just trying to constantly create this feeling of movement using shape. and then trying to balance the really fine detail with the bigger stuff. And this one was, I was trying to use pink a lot more, which you do see in landscapes, but this is one of these challenges when you're using colors that you're not very comfortable using pink and orange together, and how's that going to work? And I know there's whole color wheel theories. I'm not entirely sure I follow that, but I do try to just fit them in and more as balance how bright something is and how is it offset. So the brightness of the sky is offset by the darkness. And that's very much what Mother Nature does in general. So it's, in some ways, it's mimicking.
Yeah, if you follow Mother Nature, they figure the palette out already. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's the color wheel. And if you were to deal with a cooler color wheel, it would be a little bizarre. You know, dealing with all the quinacridones and all the other overly bright colors that that people want punch. Your work has punch, and you're using natural colors. So, do you use any kind of metallics or anything like that, or are you mostly just a standard?
Just the standard. I played around with a bit of the fluorescence that Golden came out with when I did that Aurora painting we were just looking at with the polar bear. I tried a bit of that, but it is very stark. So it's only, if I ever do use it, it's like very minor highlights. Meaning it too much, just bring it.
It might be feeling a little gimmicky at a certain, if you tried to employ that into your work when the majority of it is there's something else going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is
So this is another example of just that balance between the real dark section in the far left, and then it's offset by the complete balance of the distance and the light in the background. And in this case, the moon's very kind of small. In the distance, some of them I do larger.
Yeah. No, I love the outcropping of rock, and this one's snow. It's just you know, there is I guess I'll call it, there is that iconic feeling of the winter, I guess, and I love that singing of in the sky, the clouds, and because that aurora that's sitting in the background behind. And if you've been to the North Country in the wintertime, that's go ice fishing or something up there, you will see similar types of things. But it's kind of just a nice fresh. I guess there's this fresh frosting on the trees. You know, but the cool colors. I love the palette, and it's an analogous palette, and there's strength in those colors that belong to the family of that color, right? There's just a lot of people feel you know, do I need to add red to it? Do I need to pop it up? And you go, follow what nature's telling you, right? Follow that palette and do it in your style, and you will have a successful piece. You know, and it's a fresh design, and yet you look back at the previous one, it's a dominantly green feeling to this one.
Yeah.
Yet now we go into this one, it almost feels like a woodcut. So that they, you know, really minimal palette. I mean, dark. And if you've been at, like you said, you like to walk at night in the forest or something or things, and you will get light that's similar to this, right? Because it's just what light's available from that moon or the aurora or stuff that does reflect back into. There is no headlights from vehicles, you know. They're
straight up one source of light. Is what you're getting. So it's the same thing. You're just painting the silhouettes and painting it, which still does have color. It's just minimal color, like you said. There isn't a lot there. There still is a bunch of color, but not in comparison to some of the other paintings.
Yeah, you've gradated dark to light, or you know, things like that are happening. But what's really nice about this is the shadows. The shadows define the snow, right? So you basically, that's the rhythms that really set up in the piece of work, and it's kind of it's a nice way to see that it's not just a flat piece of snow, right? And you got to plan out those shadows that they're going in the right direction, you know, they give you that feeling. Because again, you're trying to give depth at night, which is really hard to do. Like to see at night, it just gets darker, darker, darker. So you've got to kind of manipulate a little bit to give you, like you said, you're searching for that light source all the time in your work, and it's definitely catching it here. You know, it's a different kind of light. It's not just, it's bright. It is kind of stark, but it's beautiful. And I think it's the line work with good contrast. And I think, you know, that frosted tree, you know, you kind of, you know, you can read a lot of things into things in the work. Any beautiful piece, Jeff, beautiful.
Thank you.
This one really caught my eye. I'm getting near the end here now, but again, it's that shadows, you know, they drive you right through the middle of that page to the light, you know, and they set it up nice. It feels very much like a woodcut. Beautiful piece, and this would make a very nice woodcut. I just love those Van Gogh rhythms in the tree. Like you said, Van Gogh, I can see Van Gogh in their trees up in the top there. Maybe some influence there.
Yeah, we have all around here. Sometimes when I think it was years ago, their plan of reforesting areas they cut down was to plant everything in perfect rows.
I know.
We have a few forests here that are all the same tree planted in perfect rows. And this was to mimic something very similar, which is, so it's kind of natural, unnatural feeling, because that is what some of the forests are around here when they try to replant them.
Yeah, it's not good for forest health either to have all the same tree.
No.
It's some of the forestry people saying they just due to disease, you could lose your whole forest. You know, some mite bug or something would take it over and eat everything up, the spruce beetle, for instance. But there is some foliage, and it is kind of weird that everything is in perfect rows.
Yeah. It makes it fun to kind of like, almost like an adult playground. You're in it and you can see these tree to tree, and it's like these rows where you can see so far when you're looking down them. And that was kind of the idea, is like how much you can see through the tree, because it's not really fully natural, but yeah.
Right. It would make some bizarre movie set somewhere down the road where somebody is doing some kind of movie and they use the rows of these trees that some villain is trying to hide behind. It's sort of like some of those columns you would see in say in Italy, where the person's walking and all the columns line up and they move over. The person moves from one column row to the next, and then the camera skips to the next one, and you could back up and all these columns are in rows, right? Which makes sense in building a building and a structure. But to see it in a natural sense, it's just kind of, it is a bizarre painting. You know, it's a beautiful painting, but it's just a bizarre idea, right? It's just like, what are you people doing? Can't anybody just do something on a zigzag, or, you know, put one here and one there and then there, but they all have to be equally spaced and in rows. Looks like some kind of housing development, you know, where they'll do the similar thing, little masking for the highway, so you don't see what they've done behind it. Yeah, I've seen a bunch of those. Yeah, I love the warm colors in the wintertime on that one. Well, there we go. We're going to end on this one. So, is this Jasper again?
Yeah, I can't remember particularly, but yeah, I think it is around that area.
Jasper, yeah.
It's
so you travel across Canada a little bit?
I had done it more when I was younger. I had lived in different places across Canada.
Not that old. What do you mean?
Oh, it was a lot when I was when I was a child. But yeah, it's this piece was just that feeling of, again, the clouds kind of right above your head, the heaviness of the storm kind of beyond, and how they sometimes touch the mountains. So it feels like that cloud's just going to roll right into the mountains. And I really like the dark and the light of this, and that's just the focal point of looking right in the middle. It makes you look beyond the horizon. Yeah,
this is probably one of the more mirror ones that you've built of the pieces that I've seen, but it's still, that's the way it is. I mean, they're very, very, I found very difficult painting mountains. You get caught up in that postcard feeling, right? Jasper, Banff, and those areas where, you know, that beautiful water and that emerald. Everything is beautiful, right? And it reflects almost 100%. It'll flip you in 2 seconds. You just, you know, what side's up.
Yeah.
And but those are the things people like to take away from them for those sceneries. And it's nice that you've got I love the tree, which really gives you the height to your work. Otherwise, you kind of split the page in half, which is, you want that feeling that is a long vertical, and you nicely designed piece again. Yeah, for a guy who's not taking any design classes, perfect. I encourage everybody to don't take design classes and ruin your vision. But I think you've got it nailed, and you're having a great time. That's the main thing. It looks like you're having a great time. Appreciate it. And oh, there's the other guy having a great time. He just popped in.
Yeah, I'm back. What can I tell you? I'm here to ruin the mood. So no, the stuff was beautiful. I liked it. And as I said earlier, it all popped. So here's my question I always ask every artist. So what is your artwork? What's your range in pricing? If somebody sees this and goes, I have to have a Jeff piece, what's Jeff's artwork range from?
So it ranges roughly around just over $1,000 for some of the smaller pieces, to some of the larger pieces would be just over 10,000.
Okay.
That's what they're pretty much in that range.
So that's Canadian.
That's Canadian.
So for everybody in the United States, $3.50 US. And if you're in the EU, he owes you money. So there you go. Okay. So we want to make sure so everybody knows. We'll have Jeff's link below if you want to reach out to Jeff. And if you can't figure out how to use it, reach out to the show and we'll put you in touch with Jeff. But no, your work is absolutely gorgeous, Jeff. Liked it tremendously.
Go to his website. Yep, go to his website. He does have reproduction prints available as well. And if the pieces aren't available, like you say, he usually has 10 or 20 pieces available at any one time in his galleries as well. Have his work and pop in and see his work. Love to see more of his work.
Mention our name and you'll get no discount at all. So just mention our name anyway, so he knows you saw us here. So, but anyway,
we had a good time.
Thank you so much.
It was a great talk, and I enjoyed it very much. Thanks for sharing with us today, and we will talk to you again for sure.
Yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you soon. And everybody, don't forget to subscribe and like, and we'll see you next Thursday. Cheers, everybody.
Hang in there.